Hey, pal.
Hey guys, how's it going, man?
Good, and you.
Lekker.
So the Bryan Air chief pilot. Should we jump right in?
Let's do it. This is a topic of note.
It is. It hasn't had as much traction as I thought, and one of the reasons hard.
What's hard?
His future employment chances, I think, are safe to say they've been blown.
Nice choice of words. Yeah.
In this day and age.
Yeah, you shouldn't really be, doing that.
It probably wasn't in the SOP, but
yeah,
if you don't know what we're talking about, we're not going to discuss it fully here on the show because I don't actually even know. Look, he was arrested. There's allegations of all sorts of things, grooming young female cadets and first officers into doing unspeakable acts.
yeah,
And I suppose it's no laughing matter.
it isn't.
But it's a little bit funny.
It's almost unbelievable. Look, it's what fascinates me is, do they actually have time in the cruise to get that right? I mean, I thought Ryan Air were all about short sectors, but obviously, never mind.
Yeah, let's not go. Let's leave it there. All right.
What's important though, we were kind of like gusting on this topic earlier on, was how accurate is it? Is this one of those,
That's what I'm worried about.
yeah, or is this going down the avenue of an Andrew Tate type thing? I don't know. I'm voicing.
I don't know. Anyway, we'll leave it there. I'll leave the link in the show notes. You can read it for yourself as to what happened there. But before anything concrete is laid down there, maybe we just leave it there and jump to some other stories that are doing the rounds this week.
Any news on BBJs?
Plenty of BBJ news. There's actually a lot of manufacturing news, though. And there's a big rush to see who's going to get the Indigo order. Boeing or Airbus, of course. That massive order. To me, that's something quite, going to have to watch that quite closely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of news as well. I'm not going to report on it this week, but I'd like to get into next week. The Comac's been flying around.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of gen now on how it actually works and how it compares to the 7.3 and, compares to the 320. So we report on that next week. And there's some Embraer news as well. Embraer blaming the lack of US pilots for weak E-jet sales. And let's jump on that one from the start. So Embraer are saying they ain't selling E-jets at the moment, and one of the reasons is because there are not enough pilots to actually go and fly these aircraft around. Is that accurate, or is that Embraer trying to save a bit of face?
No, it sounds like the latter to me. I mean, look, the pilot shortage, bit of accuracy there. But why would a manufacturer start blaming that? And why particularly the US?
Well, I suppose the US is such a big market there for them.
The vast majority of the shortage, or what?
Yeah, interview with Aviation Week, the chief executive of Embraer blamed the shortage of pilots in the US for the drop in demand for the commercial aircraft. We would have more opportunities if there weren't a pilot shortage in the US, he says. However, mention again that the company is currently discussing the possible sale of more than 200 commercial jets.
Okay.
So, we need Embraer in the market. They're a critical player in the global market. And the product, that E-Jet, is a wonderful product. Even going further back, the Embraer 145 that we know so well. How good of a product is that, and how popular that aircraft is in Africa? But I think they're battling in these current times against the resurgence of the MAX.
Yeah.
And the obviously the 320 Neos without those Pratt & Whitney engines. So we'll have to keep an eye on that in the coming weeks. But the sales are nowhere near where they should be.
Interesting stuff, man.
Mm-hmm. That's the one thing. Boeing, they've stepped up the production line on the 787. Things are looking pretty decent at Boeing at the moment. They've picked up a few more sales. The deliveries are happening, and all the nonsense that was going on a few months ago is no longer there. Things are looking good for Boeing. Obviously, the MAX is still taking the majority of the sales, the majority of all the deliveries. But the 78 is doing good. And I think one of the reasons why Riyadh has got so much publicity at the moment, and they're busy flying around their very smart-looking 787.
Yeah, which they let go at the air show.
Which air show was that?
It was the Paris air show.
Was it Paris? Has that been already?
Yeah, it was two
Last
weekends
weekend.
ago.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where they displayed it. And I don't know if you saw the video footage of it flying around. But, we commented last time that under those hanger lights, it was a really good-looking color.
Yeah.
In normal daylight, it's just as sexy, man. So, yeah, very cool ivory. And
I like it a lot.
yeah.
So the 787 now rolling off its production line every 5 production days, which apparently is really good.
I can imagine.
There's another article as well. Again, we're going to jump into that next week. Not enough time this week. It's Royal Aeronautical Society about the production of aircraft, the producing of them, production lines, all those fancy words we've used so often on the podcast. What is the main one? Supply chain issues
Yeah.
and all the rest. So it looks like the manufacturers are finding a way around this now, and things are kind of back to normal. They have to be, because the demand is simply there. And if they're looking for a time to cash in, now's that time. I don't think they can afford to sit around after everything that happened. They need to take this as an opportunity, I suppose, and move forward, which they are doing. So it's nice to see Boeing doing really well there. Of course, Airbus are still selling plenty of their 320s and all the rest. Be nice to see Embraer back at the top. And there's a new player in town, of course, that Comac that we'll keep an eye on.
Yeah. That'll be interesting.
International news. So we've spoken about the Bryan Air chief pilot, and let's move on to the next thing. So yours truly, was involved yesterday in a conference at Lanseria Airport at NAC, actually. And it was the Gen Av 2023 conference. Very, very well organized. Probably a smaller turnout than they had hoped. And I sat on a panel with Mark Goff from Skyhawk, Ross Granage from CFR from Lutzavia, and Alex Todd, CFR 43 Air School. Good bunch of guys. And we had a conversation. One of the topics that popped up, Mark actually commented on it first. He was sort of promoting the MPL program, that multi-pilot license that we don't have here, that's been popular in Europe. And we didn't obviously get into it. We were sitting on a panel, so it wasn't too much time to talk about it. But one of the articles this week, the families of Flight 3407 are concerned with changes to first officer requirements in the States. Now, bearing in mind this MPL program that's worked so well in Europe, it doesn't work that way in the States. The Americas had this 1,500-hour rule that we've gone backwards and forwards on before. But it was interesting because when I was sitting there on the panel, I couldn't quite put my foot either side as to what I actually thought about those two alternate licenses, if you can call it that. You know, you need to have 1,500 hours to sit in the right seat there of a commercial airliner there in the States. And obviously it doesn't work that way in Europe. But when that conversation came up, I kind of thought, geez, if I have to take a side here, I'm not 100% certain on which side I want to be on. But nonetheless, we don't have an MPL program in South Africa. If that program became an option, do you think it'll be a good thing? So in other words, at the moment here, we don't really have a restriction for a pilot to leave flight school, go and get yourself a rating on a 7.3 and go get a job on a 737. you can do it straight away. But we don't have that infrastructure of a MPL license behind it, nor do we have the restrictions of the 1,500-hour rule that you have in the States. So we're in like this little bit of a gray area here in South Africa. And it brought up a topic that I thought, hey, I must mention this on the show to see what you think about it and obviously what the listeners think about it, because I think it is quite a noteworthy thing. You know, the infrastructure for that MPL, you know, all those, you know, multi-crew hours you need and this don't exist.
If I'm not mistaken, that MPL program involves well over, 100 or 200 hours of simulator time. I don't quite know exactly how the program works.
Yeah.
But as far as I know, there is a lot of simulator time involved.
There
so
is.
it's not a cheap thing to do.
It's not.
But yeah, in saying that, when someone qualifies with that sort of program behind them, at least they've got some experience to be of some use in the right-hand seat versus someone who doesn't have anything behind them. I also don't agree. I'm more pro the 1,500-hour rule, because I think someone in the right-hand seat needs to be competent enough to really handle a situation if the person in the left-hand seat becomes incapacitated.
So let's go back a little bit. So flight 3407, it's that Colgan Air flight that crashed, killed 51 people. And after that, that's where this rule came in. And obviously now the family members and close friends of the victims of the 2009 accident said they would attend the markup session for the bill and express concern that some key components of the bill will weaken the first officer pilot qualifications, which were established in the Airline Safety and Federal Administration Reauthorization Act of 2010 and have been pivotal in reducing commercial airline fatalities in the US. And yeah, that's where it is. However, if you look at what's going on in the industry today and the shortage of pilots throughout the world, and particularly in the States, and the pressure that the Biden administration and everyone is under to do something about it, you wonder how long this rule is going to remain. And if so, have the Europeans not gone down the right path by actually creating a license that kind of says, well, right, you're not going to get the hours, but we're going to put you through the right training so you can perform in that role in a competent manner.
Yeah.
Good idea.
I think so. I think so. You know, at the very least, it makes up for the lack of experience one would have, you know, bombing around in a smaller airplane, gathering experience, growing a pair of balls, you know.
To do a job.
Exactly. So,
yeah.
No, I kind of agree with it. Yeah, it would be interesting to see how they structure that and how it would work, because, you know, do we have the infrastructure here in South Africa right now to cater for that?
No, we don't.
We don't have enough simulators yet.
There's not even there's nothing there to. It's not available as an option.
No.
So there's a bit of time required, and there's going to be a bit of effort by sort of key stakeholders to get that implemented. But
yeah,
the reason is, and you know, I'm just going back to that event yesterday. I was there in a slightly different capacity to some of the other guys I was talking about. A lot of it was based on general aviation and what's going on in the flight schools and that today, and a little bit different to, you know, what we do here. But it was interesting nonetheless. But the one key thing that I did pick up is, I think there's less of a concern at that level for the exodus of expertise that we are seeing at this sort of level of qualification.
Yeah.
By that I mean a lot of our colleagues, friends and that are in different parts of the world at the moment. And every single day we're hearing about someone else that's taking the opportunity to go somewhere else. And I suppose when it hits closer to home, it's more in your face, you're more sort of aware of it, and it's more of a concern. But it's not as, I didn't pick up that it was as much of a concern, you know, for guys and that at the flight schools. What I did pick up though as well, I did not realize how much of the, we hear these stories all the time, the flight schools are full,
Yeah.
which they are. And the guys are doing a really, really good job. I mean, Mark Goff and them at Skyhawk, 43, all of them doing a fantastic job. How many times have we said, every single time someone comes here for training with a South African license, it's almost like, we can relax because this guy's going to know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And you've got to give credit to the flight schools for keeping that standard very high.
Yeah.
Because the South African standard is very high, and particularly when it comes to procedural type things like IF and things like that. So all the instructors out there, all the flight schools, they're the ones that are upholding that standard, which is a very positive thing for South African aviation.
You know what's amazing is that standard is so exceptionally high. And I can imagine a lot of the instructors that are at those flight schools doing the training don't have vast amounts of experience themselves. They've literally just finished their comm licenses. The next thing that they've progressed on to is doing the instructor's rating. So it's quite impressive that the guys can deliver such a high standard of training even with that level of experience.
Yeah. Well, I was sitting on that panel. Obviously, Mark has got a lot of experience. He's been at Spoories and that. But Alex, Todd, and Ross Granage, they're two younger guys, but highly, highly competent. I mean, both of them spoke with such sense and confidence, and they really know what they're doing. So it's no surprise that, the flight schools are doing well if you got those guys. But the point that I want to make, I never realized how few South Africans were busy doing training at the flight schools.
Yeah.
So the flight schools are full.
But it's not South Africans.
It's not South Africans.
Yeah.
It's not South Africans. So, like you do hear things and, we've reported on it, the flight schools are doing well and this and that, but it's not South Africans. Now, how much of a concern is that? Another question that came up, someone in the audience threw the question. They said, but, it's so expensive to fly, and a lot of the flight schools are based on the US dollar. How do we make it cheaper? You can't.
No, look,
the dollar that's what we stuck with.
That's aviation. It doesn't matter whether you're a flight school, airline, charter company, whatever you're doing. It's all dollar based, and unfortunately, it is a very expensive industry to be in. You can't get away from those costs, man. Oil, fuel.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. Anyway, they are. The point being, not a lot of South Africans doing the training. How much of a concern is that for you in your position now? If you think about the Exodus, we've got a Qantas Link roadshow here next week. Hopefully, I see some of you guys here. I know we're going to see some of our ex-colleagues and friends here. How many pilots are going to take that post? How much of a void is it going to create? Or are we just being overly pessimistic about the void that is about to be left?
I don't think so. I think, it's a pretty realistic concern to have right now because we see it. I mean, we are fortunate enough to be involved and in connection with so many people in our industry on a daily basis. It's difficult to hide away from that sort of news all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, the number of people that are taking up opportunities or have taken up opportunities already, and then that companies are coming up here to try and encourage more people to go. And I think just about everyone you speak to right now is very much on the fence about whether they stay or go, and most of them are leaning towards going. So my concern is, it's not going to be very long, and I'm not going to have any friends left.
Yeah, it's an ongoing conversation, and we're not trying to be, harp on it every week, but it's nice to see it from a different angle. The other thing, and I want to stay on that conference while we're at it, Ryan, was obviously I took the day. I went to this very, very well organized and a good setup. I think they were probably anticipating a few more people, but they didn't advertise for incredibly long. It was, I think, relatively short notice that they set it up. But nice to see General Aviation having their own conference. And, particularly when it's got such a good production like that, really, really good. Held at Lanseria, Lanseria, they had a person speaking there about what's going on. Obviously, very, very short on flights compared to, pre-pandemic.
Yeah.
So, they've got to get back up. Obviously, airlines, Safair were in and out of there while that conference was going on. But, the mangoes and, they're no longer there. But I think all in all, the outlook is relatively positive. What I want to harp on as well, when we do this podcast, and I know it's very easy to see who this podcast is popular with.
Mm.
And at that conference, a few people came up, hey, Bryan, enjoy the podcast and this and that. And a lot of it are people that are directly involved. And what I mean by directly involved, I mean directly involved in aviation in a very real way. They either aviators, work for an aviation company, or have this passion for aviation. And when I was sitting on this panel and we were talking and answering the questions, the reality is that panel could have spoken for 6-10 hours on aviation training, course development, and whatever you want to call it. Because the conversation and the thing we were talking about is a very real, tangible thing.
Mm.
But what's also evident, and it's a sign of the times, it's a sign of the world we're in today, how much of these conversations that happen at these events, and I'm not picking on this event, happens at everywhere, is just about bullshit.
Yeah.
Sustainable energy in aviation. Come on. It's all a load of bullshit.
What's the other one, that famous one that's becoming a bit of a cliche now? Route development.
Yeah, all these things, Ryan, they're not, you can't put your finger on it and say, right, this guy's got a point. That's what.
Yeah.
When you're speaking about aviation training and I say something that is left field and a guy like Mike Goff doesn't agree with it, Mike will say, no, but Bryan, come on, think about this and this and this.
Mm.
There's experts, there's people that are always going to know better than you, that will always have advice to offer backwards and forwards. And it's something you can actually have a conversation about.
Yeah.
And I find so much of this other stuff these days, you can't argue the point because no one actually knows what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's all a bunch of rubbish.
It's a bunch of fancy words that have been strung together. Someone's like sort of, tick that off as a subject, and you're left kind of wondering,
what are you talking
what the
about?
hell is that?
Yeah.
And then I think most people are probably too scared of sounding dumb, so they don't want to challenge it.
This is
it's a bit of like
point.
a woke thing, saying, "Oh, if I comment on this, I might sound stupid, so I'm a bit scared now."
That is the exact next point I was going to make.
Crap, man.
I think you almost think, geez, I should know about this, but I don't, so I'm just going to shut up.
Yeah.
But the reality is, the guy that's actually speaking about this nonsense, I don't think has a cooking clue what he's actually talking about. So, it was, anyway, I'm not picking on that conference in particular or any conference, but you see it a lot. And even, what I find interesting, you go onto an AI, large language model, ChatGPT, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's nice to play around and see how much better it's getting and that. If you go in there and you write there, give me topics to choose from for my next aviation-based podcast.
Yeah.
Number one, it's going to be sustainable energy in aviation, environment this and that. And it's all like there's such a push towards stuff that's got nothing to do with aviation safety, nothing to do with bettering the industry, nothing to do with people already in the industry making it better for them in the long term.
Do you think that is because it's as a result of there's too many fucking agendas?
Exactly.
Everybody's got some sort of an agenda or sort of bureaucratic box to tick, and they're trying to impress this party because so and so can line their pockets. I think that's where it comes from.
The
100%. Realism is just
it's an agenda.
Yeah,
it's an agenda-based thing. And one of the questions that came up, not to us, but it was in an earlier talk, had to do with how do you make the industry? How do we get youngsters into the industry? How do we there's so few South Africans at flight schools.
Yeah.
All right. How are you going to get them into the industry? You're going to provide better opportunities for them post qualifying.
Yeah.
Hey?
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
If the likes of the local airlines here provide a really good service, but they also provide a really good opportunity for people to look at and say, you know what, I can make a career out of this position here, you'll get the people into the flight schools. But when Johnny goes to his dad or his uncle to say, uncle, can I borrow, near R1 million to do a comm? The first thing the uncle's going to do is go and look at the future chances of employment. And that's an important thing. Now, we know jobs and that are available at the moment, but with so many people, jumping ship, do you do a South African license, or do you decide to go and stay with Johnny's aunt in the UK or in France and go and do an IATA license because everything is just focused in that direction and there's just simply no opportunity here?
Yeah.
Look, it's a difficult conversation to have like this on a podcast with you and me bounce, backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
But it's a important one, I think, nonetheless. Point being, I think when you're speaking aviation and you're talking about aviation things, and one of the reasons, you jump onto like a Fly Africa and, to go, it's because there's people that are invested in and are properly in aviation commenting and talking there.
Yeah.
And it's nice because everyone there's got a sense of knowledge that is required to keep the conversation going.
Exactly.
And, one thing we'll make sure of on this podcast is we'll keep talking about things that are topical but are real things.
Yeah, exactly.
You ain't going to see us going to left field and start talking about bullshit topics that sound fantastic but have absolutely no relevance or anything tangible to it. That was my little rant there.
100%. You talk about attending events. I did a bit of an excursion yesterday as well. I got invited to attend an AI chat at this collab facility in Pretoria, which was quite interesting. Marcel, one of our regular fans, invited me along. And it was very interesting. It was I went with a bit of an open mind, and I'm not the most techie person out there, but, wanted to see what guys are talking about and what this was all about. And, it was quite interesting, the chat about AI and where it's going. And, you mentioned earlier, like, putting in a topic and you got to be careful about what it brings back to you. It's an interesting word going around in the tech space. It's called, what do they call it? They call it, you got to watch out for AI hallucinations.
Mm-hmm. What is that?
So it's kind of like what I could take away from a tech guy could probably correct me on this, but it's like almost like when AI doesn't quite know the answer, but it's going to go and try and fish something out there, and it comes back with something that's sounds good, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's basically hallucinating. It was quite funny to listen to these guys talk about it, because I just thought, I know hallucinations from mushrooms and ecstasy. Not that I've done it, but allegedly what I do.
Don't tell Bjorn.
But being a 40-year-old, your hallucinations like, okay, apparently now it's a tech thing. But so
that's interesting because we're speaking about these talks and that happen. These guys, they sound fantastic, but they're talking bullshit.
No, it was very interesting, I must say. Look, there was some good information that came out of that, and a lot of other stuff that just left me wondering. Thought, better go and research that. But
so we had two different sort of events. I went to a full-on aviation side. You went somewhere else, but like the podcast a bit, huh?
Yeah. No, it was cool, man. We went to go and scout out and see what this was all about. What was very nice, though, was this venue that they hosted at, the collab facility there in Pretoria.
New.
Yeah, brand new, out the box. You must see this building, cuz I think you would have. I'm trying to not sound like a Rani. You would have liked it. Very techie, modern. It's quite cool. They've got this like collaborative workspace that's going on there, and I just thought I could see our podcast studio in an environment something
like
that looked like that. It was quite cool. Oh.
Nice. Good to expand the horizons a bit there and get that knowledge in on the subject that is going to play an even bigger role going forward. No doubt about that. One last story to jump into before we jump on an advisory for this week.
Yeah.
World's best airlines, in particular in this case, now low cost.
I saw that doing the rounds.
Yeah, Air Asia first, Allegiant second, Bonza third, EasyJet, Eurowings, Flair, Fly Dubai. They're all there. When you read things like this, you wonder what are they based on and all the rest. This one, based on quite a few things. I'll leave the link in the notes there. And relatively interesting. But why, those are the low-cost airlines. Who's the best normal airline, according to you?
According to me.
The world's best airline of any category.
Oh, okay. So not necessarily low cost or...
Not low cost, any category.
The world's best airline.
Surprising.
To my knowledge, Qatar?
It used to be. It's now Air New Zealand. Ranked in first place due to cabin innovation for beds for economy class passengers. Can't argue with that.
Yeah.
That's on its new 787 service.
I think that was born out of necessity because New Zealand is
Yeah,
fucking far away.
it is. Tell us what you really think. Air New Zealand's got this commitment to excellence in all facets of his business. Starts at the top with outstanding governance and one of the best executive teams in aviation, through to a workforce that is delivering constantly to the strategy and customer promise. I'd agree with that because if you look at their Dash 8 100 or 100-300 service that they offer one of the best Dash 8 services in the world. So they obviously, it's not just, it's great when you fly on the 787, but shit everywhere else.
Yeah. So
they offer a great service across the board. So well done, Air New Zealand.
Yeah.
And they're right next to your mates there in Oz.
Yeah, in Oz. What is that old Gareth Cliff? He does it really well. He talks about Jacinda Ardern.
Yeah.
The Prime Minister of New Zealand. Yeah. Look, they've got their ducks in a row.
They do. Unlike South Africa, the USA has now imposed sanctions on a flight school in Oudtshoorn. Do you know about that?
Seriously?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
What happened there?
I don't know, Ryan. Let me find my show notes here.
I catch you.
Yeah, so this is that, just the name of it, can't think of it at the moment. United States on Wednesday imposed sanctions on a flight school headquartered in Oudtshoorn, saying its relationship with China posed a risk to American interest. The Flying School Academy of South Africa is not particularly worried, saying in a statement its inclusion on the U.S. Department of Commerce entity list does not affect the day-to-day operations. They don't care.
Okay.
Or why should they care, I suppose? Anyway, that's going on. The SAA deal is in sight now because those Takatso minority shareholders agreed to sell. No surprise.
You've got a button on the roadcaster there that makes cricket noises.
Yeah. Shall I find it?
Yeah.
Yes,
Push that one. You mentioned SAA, I just hear crickets in my head, man.
It's somewhere, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well.
I've distracted you now.
You have.
Yeah.
And I want to find it, otherwise it's going to... No, not that one. All right, no. But, yeah. So, yeah, that's going to happen. And IATA have given ACSA a bit of a hard time because of the levy increases and prices that they are charging. So,
Yeah.
good to see that IATA still has the consumers back in this instance.
Yeah.
ACSA, no doubt, will just carry on as per normal.
Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that we
Hang
have...
on a second.
Yeah. Synonymous.
Yeah.
But getting back to IATA,
Mm.
I hope we're allowed to mention this now, but we did get a message from Al,
Yep.
who I think is extremely proud of his wife, Kimmy.
Yep.
She's now
Well done, Kimmy.
the Chief Information Officer as
Chief
well as
data and data something specialist or
at IATA. Yeah. So very high. And
Al and Kim McCauley, our correspondents from Geneva.
that used to be from Montreal.
Yeah. Well done, guys.
Yeah. So, it's good to see that there's some South Africans that are at the top there. And
South Africans are doing so well overseas.
they are.
They're really doing well.
In fact, I had a conversation with a mate of mine last night who was saying, that's the big concern. The talent that South Africa is losing, not just out of aviation, but across the board. It's actually fun.
It's wild.
It's scary.
It has a huge impact.
That's massive.
Yeah.
So
Well done.
pretty soon the talent, or at least there's some talent in the podcast pool. You're gonna have to do a shit ton of editing today, guys.
No, I'm not editing nothing today. It's been a long week. There's no editing going on. I want to apologize out front. So on the show notes, normally I'm putting links, this, that, everything. This week has been, needless to say, we probably should not have shot out a show this week. We were determined to do it. We were going to do it.
Yeah.
But I had started doing it. I lost some of the information, and I've had to now either do the podcast or make fancy show notes. So this week we did the podcast. It's not fancy show notes. Fancy show notes will be back next week. That's with links and everything, all the rest.
Yeah.
There will be some links, though, to the advisories. Have you got an advisory this week?
So I kind of do. It's a bit of a softer advisory compared to what we normally do. But goes online. Remember a couple of weeks ago we spoke about motivation and where you find inspiration, that kind of stuff. So last weekend I had a bit of downtime and I managed to kick back and watch a full movie.
Oh, yeah.
With my laati.
What's that like?
It was actually incredible. Let
Yeah.
me tell you. I can't tell you how relaxing it was to just sit back for a couple of hours and just get involved into a movie again from start to finish. Anyway, it's an oldie, but it's a goodie. Do yourself a favor and re-watch, if you haven't watched it already, The Next Karate Kid.
Oh, really?
Man, I watched that movie and I drew so much inspiration and motivation from the storyline behind it, because I know you would dig it now, particularly because you're into jiu-jitsu and this is all kung fu karate based. But the storyline and I suppose the moral behind it of discipline and remaining consistent, all that good stuff that we usually mention on the podcast,
Is there?
it kind of like welded it together. And I was watching this movie, I kind of got a bit emotional about it. I just thought, man, this is powerful.
Yeah.
So it's well worthy. If you're looking for a movie.
Is that on Netflix?
Yeah, Netflix.
All right, good. I'm going to watch it on the weekend.
Oh, man, it was pretty
The
cool.
Next Karate Kid.
Yeah, it's the one with Will Smith's son and
Okay.
Jackie Chan.
Yeah.
And go watch it, especially the part where he gets to hang his jacket and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
You'll dig it, really.
Cool. Now I'm definitely going to watch that.
Yeah,
Good call.
100%. I
Good
knew you
call.
would dig that one.
Can I give you one as well?
Of
I
course.
wasn't going to, but actually driving to work today, it sort of dawned on me that this hasn't been an advisory, and I actually feel really, really bad about it. But one of the reasons it hasn't been is because the guy is so flipping good. So I don't know him, I've never met him. There's a pilot at Link, Walter Maury. I hope I'm getting his name pronounced correctly. Walter Maury, M-A-R-I. He makes music, and it's on Spotify.
Yeah?
And I listen to it a lot, like in the car coming. And then today I was actually like, this is a pilot at Link. And it's legit. It's like the links in the notes.
Yeah.
Go give it a listen. It's different. It's flipping cool.
What is it? Is he is it a part of a band or what?
It's not like singing and stuff. It's new age. It's like instrumental, like, DJ based stuff. Very, very cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's on Spotify there. A lot of people follow him. Looks like a cool guy. Never met him, but definitely worth following him on Spotify. He's a Link skipper on the E-Jets, I think.
Yeah.
And seems like a nice guy, and his music's legit.
Hey,
puts you in a
cool,
good
man.
space of mind. They got good names to the tunes,
Yeah.
and it's very, very cool.
That is cool. I'm going to download some now so I can
On the
listen
way
to it
home.
on the way home.
Yeah, it's
That's
like
epic.
it's almost like when I like listening to it when I'm actually planning for the podcast.
Yeah.
It's that sort of music you have on, and it like just kind of
Puts you in a good space.
puts you in a good space. It's
Do a bit
not
of focus.
It's not like you can't listen to like Bruce Springsteen or something when you're trying to do a bit of studying or something.
Those are whiskey tunes, bro.
Yeah, it's not for that. It's not
Yeah.
like that. It's something you can have on and actually do something else,
Yeah.
and quite nice. So really, really good, and local guy doing really well.
Awesome.
So
I'm gonna check it out.
support him. Upcoming events: Father's Day this Sunday.
Oh,
Any
yes.
plans?
Yeah. I am going to go and play golf with my dad tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
So wish me luck. It's
Nice.
been a long time since I have swung a golf stick.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got that planned. So looking forward to that. And then Sunday, yeah, just chilling and definitely spending time with dad.
Cool.
And actually being a dad. I was very lucky this morning to get treated to a little Father's Day school concert at my son's creche.
Nice.
And let me tell you, it hit me hard this morning as to how special it is to be a dad.
Yeah.
Got a bit teary there because it was just fucking awesome.
Yeah.
But yeah, so looking forward to it. So to all the dads out there, have an epic weekend and special Father's Day.
Yeah, I do enjoy it. It's right what you say. It's the best thing in the world.
Totally, man. Totally.
Yeah. So
Nothing
that's,
compares.
Nothing compares. That's this Sunday, and the Canadian Grand Prix is this Sunday as well.
Yeah. I know there's a lot of concern about the weather. They reckon it's going to be a wet one.
Oh, really?
Mm.
That's what she said.
No, that wouldn't bother a Ryan Edging pilot.
Should we leave it there?
Yeah.
Have a
let's
good
not push
weekend,
any more
everyone.
limits.
From our side, goodbye for now.
Cheers.